where democracy can take roots. But along with that, the state would keep a control on the activities of the private sector, so that private sector does not become a profit-making enterprise and looking after its own interest alone. So that is where what actually comes later on, in the form of centralized planning, and what we see in Nehru Mahalanavis model, that I would refer to. But that is where he understood that the private sector, in terms of its scope and in terms of the areas in which it can operate, it was required to be controlled, and its overall activities had to be put in sync with the larger national objective. Right? So that's how he would try to achieve, and in the whole process he would understand that through the means of gradual taxation, a state would generate resources, and once resources would be generated, it can be redistributed among the people of India. Right? So that's where first resources were required to be generated, and then it would be redistributed. So redistribution requires regeneration first. Now, I will come to the next part, but the question that was raised, that how economic equality would ensure political freedom, right? And that is where you will find that this specific approach of Nehru was influenced by his socialist thought, because what actually the liberal democratic model emphasizes, that an individual is free, right? So once the state under its law or the legal system declares that there would not be any restriction on individual freedom, so that is where an individual becomes free. So political freedom in a democratic model or liberal democratic model is the condition to ensure individuals' overall freedom. So his freedom of choice, his freedom to act, his freedom to realize his objectives, his freedom to develop his potential. So all these things require, once one gets the legal freedom in the political sense, right? So there is no one to restrict, there is no one to put any external constraints on your freedom to act. So that is what would constitute freedom. But this is what is being countered, or there will be an ultimate counter to that in the socialist ideas, and they would emphasize that political freedom is not meaningful to an individual unless he has the means to apply this political freedom. He has the means to realize this political freedom, to enjoy this political freedom, and this means is rooted in his economic status. So what actually happens, that a person who is deprived of any meaningful economic activity or any meaningful economic means is not in a condition to enjoy his political freedom. So that is where he would link the question of economic equality with that of political freedom. Again, as I told you, this is a kind of influence of socialist ideas on Nehru that he considers this way. Now, what economic equality here means, what should be the extent of economic equality, right? So that is something which again requires a separate debate. But to my understanding, here economic equality would mean that there should be some bare minimum resources available to an individual for his existence, right? So once that is ensured, only then the individual can think about his political rights and the freedom to exercise political rights, right? So in countries like Britain, for instance, there would be liberal thinkers who would claim that people did not have resources, or people did not have any economic means, primarily because they were deprived politically. They did not have any political representation. So once political representation would be ensured, then the state would be made to look after the interests of the people who are represented. But socialism does not believe in this model. Socialism, in fact, argues against this model. And in their understanding, first, economic resources are to be distributed, and their economic means are to be ensured. Only then there would be a meaning of political freedom, because a person deprived of food, for instance, shelter, for instance, right, clothes, for instance, is not in a position to understand, he's not in a position to exercise political rights. So that's how the two are linked, and that is where the point I made earlier, that you will find he was trying to look at through the prism of socialism as far as the whole issue between the economic equality and political freedom is concerned, right? Is this clear? Okay, right. So that's where there has to have some kind of sync. There has to have some kind of balance between individual freedom, especially in the economic field, participation of the private enterprise, private sector in economy, and the kind of control that the state would exercise in terms of bringing it or coordinating it with the larger national objectives which would be followed, right? Now that's what brings one to understand that what would be the means, what would be the the instrument through which it can be achieved. So that is where Nehru comes up with his idea of centralized planning, and that is what comes during the second 5-year plan, and after. And that's what is known, after the person who had contributed in the whole model, that is Mahalanobis, right? So Nehru-Mahalanobis model, this is how it is understood, the whole aspect of centralized planning again. And at the cost of repetition, may I add here that the whole aspect of centralized planning was influenced by the Soviet model of centralized planning. Now, what were the significant aspects and how it would be governed by the larger theoretical idea that we have seen in terms of democratic socialism? That's what we would discuss next, right? That's what we would discuss next. So we are about to get disconnected. So, do you have any questions thus far? अभी तक जो डिस्कस किया है, कुछ क्वेश्चन है? Because this is what we'll come to. This is what we'll discuss. Because this model, the point I was trying to make earlier, that the whole theoretical approach that Nehru develops in terms of the kind of relationship that may exist between private enterprise or private sector and the kind of control that state is required to exercise, and wherein state is supposed to control some of the sectors which it considers to be crucial for the development of the nation, right? So the whole model is related to that. In fact, this is what we will discuss next, right? The whole aspect of centralized planning, where the gaps were, how in fact it could not meet the objectives which it claimed could be achieved through the means of centralized planning, what kind of problems it in fact gave rise to, and how eventually it was considered by many to be a failure, right? So that's what we'll discuss next. But till now, what we have discussed is the theoretical model that possibly one can try to identify in whole of Nehru's thought, what generally is known as the democratic socialism. So emphasis would be on